and realized that that's about a $10,000 savings in each department.
Now that's what, kind of in lieu of in-kind for storing the ambulances or whatever, is that my recollection?
It's in kind, sir. It's in kind, yes.
Okay. Are they being generous?
I think the town makes out very good from the Ambulance Association.
Okay. I know that's been a topic of conversation in past budget years, so. Steve, anything?
I'm all set.
Hearing none, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Emergency Management, Department 224. Mr. Morris.
Thank you for having me over tonight.
All right.
Mr. Morris's budget is pretty straightforward, as you can see. I'd let him discuss any of the anomalies. Is that the right word?
I'd be more open for your questions, and hopefully I can answer them. Not too much has changed in this budget. Anything that has changed is due to contracts and items such as that we deal with either maintenance or miscellaneous dealings with cameras, IMC, CAD programs, things of that nature.
So, Dick, the part-time dispatchers,
Yes.
that just jumps out as a high percentage. So can you shed some light on what's going on with
Why is that up?
that?
12%.
Number of hours, because you have to budget for vacations, things of that nature. You're going to add more people with
Right, but you had to do the same thing last year. Why is it?
they get more money that in there is also the fire marshal side of inspections, part-time fire marshal inspections is in there as well.
All right, let me rephrase the question. What's different from last year to this year?
More work, more hours.
Mhm. And we don't have that covered under full-times, I
No.
guess, right?
No, I'd like to, but we've been very lucky to be able to do what we're doing with part-timers and seem to be able to accomplish the same task.
Mhm.
When you look around at all the apartments that are being built, the condos, and a few other significant construction jobs that require us to be there every day and do all the other things that we're doing in the apartments and the hotels, motels, have to be inspected, the restaurants, it just makes for a lot of work.
Mhm.
And then continuously run the dispatch center and radios and manage all of those things as well.
So the overtime line is overtime for full-time dispatchers, is that right?
That's correct.
So there's more resource required this year than last year, is what I'm hearing you say.
That's
And it's
correct.
covered from two pots. One is from full-time dispatcher overtime, and the other pot is part-time dispatcher.
In two of the dispatch slots, the midnight and day shift have to be filled with a full-timer. So if someone takes 7 to 3 off, that spot automatically goes to the full-timers, where they're allowed to either work that shift as an overtime, split that shift 4 hours each, and go from there on the first time that is called out, vacation or sick time. And with the staff getting older, there becomes more and more days that they can take. And if somebody takes a day on a Monday, they take a day on a Friday, then it requires to go to that number of time. And we pretty well ran out of time this year, where we budgeted for 23 shifts, where now we're asking to cover 49 shifts because of that number of people. And I think it's fair to say that we've created this with our contracts, and I have to live by it and do the best I can to make sure that that center's covered 24/7.
In fact, during this year, didn't we have to, at some point, I don't know if we did it already, we have to transfer some funds because of the fact that it was under budgeted for what we anticipated in the part-time dispatchers?
No,
I don't know.
not us.
No.
No, I don't think so.
Well, thus far this year, part-time dispatches has gone through 78% of the budget when they should be roughly at 67%.
And that's because that we use part-timers because we haven't filled the position, but we have a new, we're finally filling a position with having the status quo left for the center to stay in place. We're adding that fourth person where we were using part-timers to fill that position. And that's why it's up so much, using that. And by April 13th, we'll have that full-time position filled.
Well, I'll just point out, if you look at the dispatcher's account, they're expended at 50%, and that's for that reason, because we don't have that fourth dispatcher. So they're spending low, whereas that shift is being made up with part-timers, and that's why
Okay, I got
they're
it.
spending above budget. So we'll be able to make up the difference because we're spending
Inter-transfer.
lower in the
Within that
dispatcher,
department.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So we are up, though, almost 15% in 2 years, if I read this right, from 610 to 700, right? If I do the math right? Seems stiff.
Bottom line you're talking?
That's what I'm talking.
The the
Six-
total,
Yeah, 610 from 2014, up to
15%.
700.
696.
Okay, 696, so let's say 14% instead of 15. It just seems like a big jump, right? And it's a big budget.
yeah, but you also have camera stuff in there, you have IMC in there, that is a $10,000 price tag that we have to pay.
I understand, I'm
The
just.
big jump, Dick, if you don't mind me jumping in, was the fact that the Board of Selectmen, I think you guys as well, or were in that conversation, we approved a fourth dispatcher in last year's budget.
No, it was years ago.
Oh, it was years ago?
One transfer to another area, and we've been,
My
because of
bad.
the uncertainty that we've had for the last few years, we've used part-timers.
All right, so I'm just floating the question up. If we zoom out and we're up 14% on a budget of this size in 2 years, what are we doing, what are we not doing that we should be doing? Doesn't that seem like a big?
I don't know,
I mean, I'm just looking at
most
it
of
from
it,
a numbers.
all of the contract stuff is there, they get raises,
I'm not talking those
longevity.
things. The 14% isn't 3%.
Are you
But
talking
that's
the bottom
also-
line 14%?
Yes, sir.
Yes, that's because in the last 2 years, we've had to add for the CAD program, we've had to add for cameras, we have to keep maintenance going on the cameras. That is not covered under our radio umbrella. We're maintaining the camera on top of the boardwalk. We have a new camera that hopefully will be turned on tomorrow at the landfill to watch the water tower and quarry area. Just things of that nature that keep drawing us to request this kind of money to keep that operation
You also
Go.
went from a non-unionized to a unionized.
a few years, yes.
What line item does the cameras fall under?
Under miscellaneous,
Miscellaneous supplies?
yes.
Any other questions?
No.
Steve, are you in the middle of a question?
No.
Oh, okay. Steve Carpenteri.
Oh, I'm fine.
Beth?
No, fine, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dick.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dick.
Thank you.
Animal Control, Department 226.
I think that's me.
I think so.
You see
I
it?
don't see anybody jumping up for it.
You see that? Line 215 ACO is your regional animal control officer, and that's 50% of his salary. The other 50% coming from Waterford Police Department, if you will. This is a police officer. We pay for the vehicle.
Did we get the van from Dominion?
I think you did.
Yeah, it's coming in next year. We got a donation from Dominion,
Right.
and I think it's in our capital plan for the remaining amount of money, right? The miscellaneous supplies is for veterinary costs and the uniform, are part of the uniform, 50% of that. And the advertising is just for legal ads if we have a lost pet.
That's only half his salary?
Yeah, it's a
What if it
police
pays the other
officer.
I think it's $118,000.
It's a police
It
officer.
includes benefits.
That includes all the benefits.
Yeah, I think originally we had it as a, what was it, Stanley Clark, and just part-time, and it wasn't under a police umbrella.
There's,
Things have changed.
there's some discussion. There's
About
some
moving on to
discussion
police
with
department.
Waterford about moving away from a police officer and just having a citizen, a deputized citizen, be the ACO rather than a police officer. It would significantly cut our costs. So there's a discussion ongoing. Obviously, they have someone employed now. We have to work through those details. I anticipate a change.
Any questions?
No, sir.
Hearing none. And if I could, I know this was, I know Dick left, so I'm back at emergency management. If you can just pull out for us at some point, because I see a big bump, like, as Lisa had said, from telephones and training from our last actual to what our adopted budget was last year. So that number's flat, but I'm just kind of curious where that stands. Yeah, just kind of an FYI.
So you want last year's
Well, I'm just kind of
proposed-
curious where they were. We had the last actual we had, kind of piggybacking off what Lisa said. Between telephones and training, we actually spent 20,000. Our budget for this fiscal year's 30. I'm just kind of wondering where we are, and we have the same exact line items for our proposed budget. So
So
I
I'm
don't think
trying to
your question's
understand what
clear.
you're asking for.
how much where are we this year? Yeah.
Oh, you want
we're-
year-to-date?
Yeah, where are we this year? And, because I don't have that.
Now you do.
Where is it? Can you find that for me?
Yeah, what was it? 224,
Here.
243 and 201.
2 to 24, 243. Right, for training, 56%. What's the other line item?
Telephones, 201.
201, telephone, 79%. Yeah.
All right. So those
So
are
they're
just
gonna-
what, contracts?
They're gonna blow that budget too, probably. They're already at 79.
But on the telephone account, you have to look at.
Well, you got a
If it was a
contract, right? So
prepaid
it's
upfront.
encumbered?
Well, we've paid a little over 7,000, and we still have 7,200 encumbered.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's what represents the 79%. It includes expended plus encumbered. So there's about $3,800 that.
So what would pop us over if we have a contract and there's 3,800?
I don't think you get popped over. If you have it encumbered.
It looks like it's running where it will come in under budget, but
You never know.
Right.
right,
But it's not as dramatic as we thought.
correct.
Okay. Thank you. Services to the community, Department 115.
These are requests that come in from various service organizations, things that have been budgeted for and paid over the last, well, since I've been around. Some get added, some get dropped. I'm going to read you the last one there. The Sexual Assault Crisis Center of Eastern Connecticut is a new request. The center offers 24-hour crisis intervention services through its hotline and offices in Willimantic and New London. This agency provided specifically 14 East Lyme residents in 12-13 fiscal year. It's a request of $600, which is up 20% from $500 the year prior. Everything else is a flat line.
Any questions?
I have no questions.
Thank you.
Hearing none, we will close new business, move to public discussion. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? Karen Rack, come to the podium.
Karen Rack, 27 Black Point Road. As you see, there's some line items that are quite excessive there, in excess of 25, 30, 40, 50% if you continue and you look. What I think is perhaps, and I know you don't do this, but I'm going to say it publicly, perhaps we need to look at what we do for citizens. I think we actually may do too much in some areas. And perhaps there's organizations charitable organizations, that could take over some of it. Just for example, and I'm not going to beat the horse on this, and had a discussion with Mr. Nickerson about it, and that it is a philosophy, so I'm not expecting, and I do not expect anyone to agree with me, and I don't care whether they do or not, to tell you the truth. I don't think that the town's business is to help people be entertained and to recreate. I think we're or I am, anyways, quite responsible enough to do that on my own. I can provide that for my children. I think I know how. I think I'm capable. And I think a lot of other people are too. And I think what we've done over the years is that we've continually added to what we do and provide for people that are of not necessity. They're not necessities. They're not protection. They're fun things to do. They're yoga classes. They're another beach when we already have multiple beaches. And because of that, now we have more staff. We provide so much to our youth. We have our Board of Ed that provides every possible sport that you could imagine. Then we have our Parks and Rec. Then we have our Youth Service Center. I think we have a problem. We have like some people that have a little bit of a addiction problem to public funds. And I think what needs to happen is they need to kind of go through a withdrawal and maybe some of this stuff cut off, which would allow entrepreneurship and things to prosper and sprout up, to be taken off the backs of the taxpayer and still done. But because when the town continues to do this, it takes away that ability of that individual or those groups to do it. So just, I know that's not something that you can, that's policy, that's a philosophy, and I know that you don't, that's not in your purview. However, those line items are, in a way. And I would encourage you to really think about these line items and what is of necessity and what is of want. And perhaps it could be financed in another way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the public that would like to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on to board comment.
I have none.
Steve, Lisa?
No.
Okay. I have one. because we're slated to, our Wednesday meeting is rescheduled to March 30th. So we'll try and promptly start at 6:30 because the Board of Ed then will present for the balance of our meeting. Dr. Lombardo did request if anybody had any questions on our board, and I think anyone watching, if there's any questions, that if we can get any, if you have any beforehand that you want to send to me, and I will move them along.
Is there a, Mr. Chairman, is there a second Board of Ed meeting scheduled for them to maybe answer questions after they've made their presentation? I know they provided the raw material up front, or the glossy material, if you will, but after they make their presentation and after you sleep on it, will there be another opportunity to ask questions? I know Dr. Lombardo will be gone, but Dr. Hagan would still be around and the board. I don't know if that's how you do it. I'm just new at this, but I know that you might not be loading Dr. Lombardo up with a lot of questions right now, and that shouldn't come across as you not caring or you not having any questions. It just might mean that you need to hear the details first. Generally, that's how it's done.
I think he was hopeful that we
Yeah.
either had a chance to look at it, and if there was anything glaring that we wanted to get additional input from him before his slated departure date.
Well, we do have a meeting scheduled for deliberations on the 8th. I don't know if the Board of Ed plans to be in attendance, but
They usually are.
Once we start deliberating, once they're presented to us, it really shouldn't go back for them to be able to re-justify their numbers to us, I don't think.
Okay. I just don't know how that works.
So
I mean,
that
we're
brings the
doing that,
point.
but-
Should we add a date on deliberations of the 31st so they have a chance to, whether it's the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Ed, to, I guess it would affect the Board of Selectmen if we don't do a line by line and there's a sum certain that folks vote on. Your call.
Well, I think as it relates to the general government, right?
I think they're,
We will.
yeah. That would have to, because it doesn't matter with the Board of Ed. We could say, cut X.
Yeah,
and
the
they'll
Board of
do-
Ed's a
They'll
number.
do what they want. In terms of setting the priorities of where they want to cut statutorily or,
Right.
policy. And
We've seen that happen. You,
And they-
you
and
cut
they
out
don't need to come
positions and
back.
they keep them anyway. Right. I
Right.
know. But you still can figure out what the cut should be. I'm not telling you how to do your job. Never mind. I do have a comment on some of the public comment you got tonight. Was just that yes, things went up sometimes by 100%. When some of those line items are being read, there was on many of those, there was an equal revenue side that also would have gone up, and you saw that in one particular item tonight, zoning and planning. That they had an increase, but yes, they were also getting fees or revenue sides as well. So keep that in mind. That's all I really had to clean up that.
Now, are there any amendments to our revenue projections? I know
Is that on tonight?
have we heard anything additional coming out of the state, or?
I think
No, not-
October.
no, I think
I heard
the
that too.
Probst is going to be done. There should be another proposed budget coming.
I heard we won't hear
Thanks.
much before June 1st.
Okay.
Honestly, I think we're going to get to referendum, and they're still going to be talking about budget. And I'm not sure that I don't know statute
Yeah, they can
by contract or
extend.
by charter when we're supposed to set the mill rate. But and of course you need to know your revenue before you set the mill rate, and I'm not sure when that happens after the referendum. But it might be a long time before you know what the state's giving you. What we are getting from the state is in jeopardy. There's no question about it.
Well, we
Portions
we
are.
have to come out with a budget
Yes, you
such that
do.
the tax collector can send out his tax bills by July 1st.
Correct.
And if we don't have the numbers, then there may be an amended.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Or a supplemental tax bill?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Well, yeah, and I'll write these down, but one of the things I'd like to have the superintendent discuss is, last year, they wanted an assistant superintendent and assistant principal and someone else to cover for the principals while we were doing teacher evaluations. I want to know, and we didn't do that.
Right.
I'd like to know where their evaluations stand this year, what percentage we've done, what percentage we expect to complete, because we're asking for a teacher leader and an assistant principal again this year. Okay, so I'd just like to know where they stand on what they did this year without them.
I think it's the same position with a different name
It is.
and with
It
less
is.
pay.
It is.
I guess
I-
what
Are
might be
you gonna
helpful
email
is,
that?
the Board of Ed had asked several questions during the budget process. If we had, and we don't usually get those, but if we had a copy, they send them in, if we had the responses to them, that might help. They might ask about the Chinese program, okay. Thank you. All of them, all
I think the
right.
questions were, I don't think the superintendent's responses were posted this year. They are now?
They are now?
They are now.
Okay.
After the fact.
My only question to him, and I could ask him that night, is the Chinese program, when is that revenue that's to be counted in? Is it starting, whatever the details of that are?
I know that they're deciding tonight what to spend the money on the Chinese program.
But do they include that revenue or potential revenue in this budget?
They're keeping it in their special revenue account and not moving it into
Okay.
tuition, but I think you folks have a voice in that as well. Since the money's coming for
Now,
tuition of
Why wouldn't
kids.
they put it in the tuition budget? What's the deal? I know what the deal is. Never
It's
mind.
very difficult to talk on that, and of course, there's there's a perceived conflict of interest, since my wife does sit on the board of
Right, I wouldn't.
education.
I mean, we can ask when he comes in.
I just, they'll have their night next
Yeah.
Monday, I
Yeah.
guess, and by all means,
Yeah.
ask away.
Any further comment? Hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I had
Second?
to talk once tonight.
Second?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. We're closed for the evening. Thank